Hello, everyone. It's Kathy with Backyard Columbus, and today's episode is about shade gardens. So, on the south side of our house, which should be the sunniest, it ended up that my neighbor's evergreens, and I don't know what kind of pine trees they are, ended up growing so tall that they shaded out the sun. And then my original spot for our vegetable garden got shaded out. And then I thought, well, heck, what am I going to do now? And I thought, hey, shade garden. So this is something that I feel like a lot of people probably struggle with, and I'm not going to lie, I did until just a couple years ago, and I don't know why, because there are plenty of shade-loving plants native to Ohio that are great. So hopefully you can learn something and get some ideas from today's episode, because I actually really love my shade garden. So I think that failure comes often when people are trying to do any kind of gardening. It often comes from the fact that we didn't read the tag, right? We didn't see that it loves shade or it loves sun. Well, that matters. If you put a shade-loving plant in the sun, it's going to shrivel up and die pretty quickly. And conversely, if you put a sun-loving plant in the shade, it is going to last a hot minute and you just wasted your money. So very important that we read the tags. And I am guilty of that as well. So I'm just kind of reminding all of us we need to read the tags so we don't waste our time and money. So this shade garden that we have, and it's just a typical side of the house, but I will tell you that between my neighbor's house or her property line and my house, we've wiped out all but like one pass of the lawnmower, okay? Both sides of our house, meaning, you're looking at my front door, the right and the left, we have no grass basically. We've wiped it all out with landscaping, which saves time, and nobody cares about the grass on the side of your house anyway. So it's made an opportunity to have another little habitat. So this is my shade garden habitat. What I have found is that when people look at a large space, so let's take the whole side of your house and you're looking at this abyss of nothing. It's just grass or it's overgrown from the last owner of the home. They didn't really do anything with it, and it's just all this nothing, like stuff or a big load of mulch, and you're like, well, gosh, I don't know what to do with all of that. And too deep, from where you're standing to your house, if it's, let's call that 4 feet, that's a lot of area. Let's call that 4 by, what would you say, 15 feet long. I'm probably underestimating that, but that's a lot of space to try to figure out what to do with it, especially if gardening isn't your deal. So what I think is really fun is they have all these kinds of raised beds, whether they're cedar, regular old wood, pressure-treated lumber, by the way. When we get into a different subject of food gardens, I would not use pressure-treated lumber as a side note for that, because those chemicals that are used in the lumber, you do not want that in your food. Okay, so, but if you're just growing flowers, then whatever. We got actually not stainless steel, some kind of steel, like metal raised beds that look really neat. It provides an architectural element. And so I have 4 of those on the south side of our house, which, like I said, is our shade garden. So that puts everything in bite-sized chunks, like little manageable spaces. So those are about 12 by 12, 16 square feet, not 12 by 12, 12 square feet or 16 square feet. So those are manageable. Okay. And I would encourage you also, we'll get into the plants in just a minute, but add some bits of whimsy. It puts a smile on your face. So whether you're a gnome person or you like little fairy gardens or you're into, I don't know, whatever your art desires are, you could do flamingos, or maybe you like real art, local artists that do outside, whether it's metal objects or sculptures or whatever. Add some of that into your landscaping because it makes it more fun, and it's just more like art instead of like just like plants. Plants geek me out, but they don't geek most people out. So just add some fun to it. Have a little bit of fun, have a little bit of self-expression. All right, so whether we're talking about the whole big 4 by 15 area of your landscaping, or you've broken it up into little raised bed chunks, what you can do is get some native plants and start putting them in there. So some ideas for a shade garden. And let me tell you now that one of the best resources you can get, I have shade garden information available on my website, which is backyardcolumbus.com. You can get on OSU. They always have. So ideas of native Ohio shade plants or anything you would like to know about landscaping, they typically have a chart for it. Butterfly gardening, whatever it is. So just get on there and you can download it, take a picture of it, whatever. OSU, the National Wildlife Federation, and the Nature Conservancy should also have native shade-loving plants. So whatever state you're in, you can always just Google native shade-loving plants to whatever area, like southeastern Ohio, or maybe you're in another state, central Ohio, whatever, and it'll give you the whole list, and that will help you so you don't have to figure it out all by yourself, because that would be hard if you weren't familiar with it already. May apples are, I think, something kind of fun. Those are all in the woods. They pop up, they look like a great big tree leaf, and then they flower underneath, and they get a little apple, and critters running around love to eat that in the woods. I'm sure it's all kinds of creatures, including deer. I thankfully don't have deer in my yard because that presents a whole problem for people who like to garden. Coral bells are great shade-loving flowers. I think they're also called heuchera. Columbines, toad lilies, trilliums, spiderworts. I don't have any problem. Whoops, somebody was trying to call me. I don't have any problems with spiderworts. Apparently, it's a beautiful little purple flower. Bees just love it. I have it in a raised bed, and so it doesn't cause me any problems. I've had people say they hate spiderwort because they get out of control. Well, I don't have an opinion on that because in my raised bed, it has stayed in 2 clumps and that's it. So I don't know if they were thinking of something else or if they're just in a straight row landscaping bed if they get kind of unwieldy, but in a box, they're not bothering anything and they're great. So spiderworts, listen, a lot of people use hostas for shade-loving gardens, and that's great. I've gotten rid of most of our hostas. I think the more that you get into your landscaping, some of these tried and true basic stuff just fill up space, plants, they're just not very exciting. Bumblebees will go to the hostas like once a year. They shoot up these little bracts. They have tubular flowers on them. I'm assuming that hummingbirds will go to them also. But it's only one time of year, and otherwise a hosta is just a great big clump of leaves. So these other things are more interesting, and I've just gotten rid of all the hostas. But hostas aren't bad. There's a place for them. But my goal with these episodes is to kind of give you some ideas. My last podcast episode was called Beyond Basic Landscaping, and hostas are definitely part of that. They're just basic. I'm not quite sure what else to do, so I'm going to stick a hosta plant. And again, they can look pretty. There's a billion different varieties. My neighbor has all kinds of little teeny ones scattered throughout, and I love them. They're really pretty, but it would be great to get some of these other things in your landscaping, in your shade garden, so that it's attracting some butterflies and some bees and creates a little bit more interest. So I think that's really... we've covered it. Shade gardens it's not really that complicated of a subject, but hopefully you've gotten some good ideas, and check out the websites of the links that I'll provide in the show notes. And I thank you a lot for listening. And again, have a great day.